Good evening. I'm Matthew Ngolovakandua.
And I'm Geraldine Sen.
The World Program, in partnership with the Ministry of Health, have been working tirelessly since last year with a bacteria called Wolbachia, which is said to protect against harmful mosquito-borne diseases such as dengue, Zika, and chikungunya. With us tonight is the Ministry of Health's Chief Health Inspector, Mr. Dib Chand, and Ms. Kate Retzky, Communications and Engagement Advisor of the World Mosquito Program. Good evening, and thank you again for coming tonight.
Good evening.
Now, first question, what exactly is Wolbachia?
Thank you, Matthew. Wolbachia is a natural occurring bacterium. It lives around us in many of the insects that are around, and for example, like butterflies, fruit flies. We can say that Wolbachia is a natural gift to us.
Okay.
And as soon as Wolbachia is inserted in these mosquitoes, the primary mosquito for dengue, chikungunya, and Zika, the Aedes aegypti, it stops the transmission of the dengue virus from a healthy carrier to another person. So this is where the Wolbachia becomes a barrier in terms of transmitting the dengue virus to another healthy person.
I was reading up on it online because I wanted to know more about this bacteria. And I wanted to know more about bacteria in general. I got to know about something, what they classified as turncoats, where you have good bacteria, such as Wolbachia, but they can become bad bacteria. Now, how is Wolbachia different from these other type of bacteria that are good then turn bad?
So there are lots of different types of bacteria around the world, and you're right, there's bad bacteria and good bacteria. We all need bacteria within our bodies to live a healthy lifestyle. If you had yogurt for breakfast this morning, then you ate good bacteria. And Wolbachia is one of those good bacteria. When it's inside the mosquito's cells, viruses like dengue, Zika, and chikungunya can't grow within the mosquito's body, which keeps the mosquito healthy. And if the mosquitoes can't get sick, they can't make us sick, and that's how Wolbachia works.
Getting straight to the point though, most people still are confused about this. They tend to forget that it's not the mosquito that's carrying the disease. We as human beings, we happen to have dengue within us. It's just the mosquito that carries or transmits it from one person to another. So effectively what you're trying to do with Wolbachia is to infect dengue-carrying mosquitoes with a bacteria that'll prevent them from spreading the disease rather from one person to the other. Now say for example you have the mosquito that's out there in Fiji and it doesn't have Wolbachia in it. Could you please explain how you introduce Wolbachia into that mosquito?
Thank you, Matthew and Lennis. I think the misunderstanding here is that the mosquitoes are the carriers of this dengue virus. It's not the mosquitoes. The dengue virus and other virus that we have talked about, Zika and chikungunya, it is in the human beings. When people get sick, they carry that virus. So mosquito is a transportation or transmission medium. That is where the mosquitoes bite a sick person, and from the blood it sucks the virus and then it transmits to another healthy person. It works as a transmission medium or a mode. So when we use this technique, Wolbachia is another bacteria which creates a barrier in the mosquitoes, which mosquitoes are not able to transmit that virus from one person to the other. So the whole gist of the story is that the dengue virus, chikungunya virus, and Zika, it's carried by the mosquito. Mosquito is a transmission mode, but it is always in the human beings who are sick.
I know that you established that it's a bacteria, good one, and it helps stop the viruses from actually growing or becoming more prevalent within the mosquitoes. However, I noticed that last year, a team of yours were going out and about through the community, and the communities had lots and lots of questions. Like, they couldn't understand what's a good mosquito, what's a bad mosquito. And that was one of the common questions that kept coming up from the research that a friend of mine was, who also conducted the research within the communities. Now, do you think that was a problem, getting the people to understand, especially those within the key affected communities, understanding what Wolbachia is?
The support of the community is extremely important to us, and so for the last few months the local team doing communications and engagement has been working with communities right across the Suvarnasuri corridor, engaging with communities and teaching them about what Wolbachia is. It's important to us that people understand the work that we want to do, that they raise questions and ask us if they do have any concerns about Wolbachia, and so that we then have the opportunity to tell them that Wolbachia is safe. It's an effective way to reduce the risk of dengue, Zika and chikungunya in their communities. So Wolbachia is here to make Fiji a healthier place to live.
Getting back to what I had asked Mr. Chand earlier on about Wolbachia, how do you introduce that into the locally sourced, rather, I don't know if that's the right term, dengue-carrying mosquitoes, the Aedes aegypti that we have here? Do you have different types of mosquitoes that you're bringing from, say, from Australia, or are you introducing the particular Wolbachia into the local mosquitoes? What's the process there?
Okay, thank you for that question. I think what we have done, the University Monash has already have Wolbachia already in their insectarium. What we have done, we have harvested the local Aegypti mosquitoes, their eggs. We have exported to Monash, and the insertion part occurs at Monash, and there is a crossbreeding of our Fiji mosquito and then Wolbachia containing Australian mosquito. It's a almost 5 cycle of crossbreeding where we get a fully fledged Fijian Wolbachia mosquito. Before it is imported back, it is hatched here and then we release.
And exactly how many mosquitoes are you sending from here to Monash?
Come again?
Exactly how many mosquitoes?
Oh, there's in millions. I won't give you an exact number, but it's in the big amount.
Big amount.
So
big amount from Fiji to Monash?
Crossbreeding in Monash
and I'm assuming an even more big amount from Monash back to Fiji. Okay.
Yes, this is the process. But that process, we don't have the capacity here. It's only at Monash at the moment. The scientists are doing, the entomologists are doing it.
Yeah.
So that is how the exportation and importation happens. So this is all done under the experts here in terms of the environmental safety, in terms of the risk to other plants and organisms, which is vetted by the BEF, the Ministry of Environment, and other organizations which are fully supporting us. So it's a seal-proof process, and it's working so far very well.
So what the community can expect to see once we start releases is exactly that, our team going through each community and releasing mosquitoes with Wolbachia. These mosquitoes are going to breed with the wild mosquitoes that already live around our homes and pass on Wolbachia to their offspring. And that continues for generation after generation. What we know about Wolbachia is it's a sustainable method. So if we release here in the Suvarnasuri corridor over the next few months, we actually expect that Wolbachia will increase to high levels within the local mosquito population and then stay there.
Okay.
So we don't have to do this work year after year. It means that once the job is done, we're good to go.
Thank you for that. We'll just go to a quick break right now and then we'll be back. You're watching For the Record. Good evening and welcome back. Now, last year, when you kicked off the program, the Australian government, I believe, donated $7.7 million to this program in the Pacific. That included Fiji, Kiribati, and Vanuatu, I believe. Now, the Australian High Commission to Fiji, Commissioner that is, now she stated that this would eradicate dengue, chikungunya, and Zika. And that is a bold statement when concerning something like Wolbachia. How effective is this in terms of like places that you've tested it before?
So we can't actually say that we're going to absolutely eliminate all dengue, Zika and chikungunya from the sites that we are working in.
Yeah.
What we are confident in, though, is that we're going to greatly reduce the risk of large outbreaks. So the Aedes aegypti mosquito, the one that we're focused on, is the primary vector for these diseases.
Okay.
And when they carry Wolbachia, they actually, can't spread these diseases between people. So what we expect to see here in Fiji is once we've got Wolbachia at high levels within the local mosquito population, there's a significant reduction in the risk of these diseases being transmitted, and therefore we don't expect to see large outbreaks going forward. Long term, it's a sustainable project.
Of course, this has been tested in Australia. You've done this before and it has been successful. Looking at the success rate though, how did it all start off, and what was the response like within the communities? Because of course you need to have the support of the communities. You can't just take mosquitoes, release it out there and then expect people to just be okay with it.
Of course, in the communities around the world where we work, mosquitoes are public enemy number one. They spread disease, and now we want to come into these communities and release mosquitoes. It's absolutely counterintuitive. But what we've seen time and time again in the 12 countries where we're working now is that communities welcome Wolbachia. Once they understand the benefit to their community, they're 100% on board. And that's because we know it is safe, it's low cost, and it's sustainable. So with regards to our innovative method, it all started in Australia, and our first field trial sites commenced in 2011 in a city called Cairns, where we did small-scale trials. Then we moved to Townsville, where we did our first ever city-wide trial. And that was really remarkable for us because actually 3/4 of the work that we did there were done by the community members themselves, not our scientists. The community members actually grew and released their own mosquitoes. And if that isn't a symbol of community support, I don't know what is.
You also had work carried out with primary school students with the Wolbachia Warriors, I think. And that was pretty successful, starting from the grassroots, getting children to understand. Because, of course, growing up in Fiji, Matthew, you know what it's like. You go to school, they tell you mosquitoes are bad, destroy breeding grounds. You see a mosquito, you kill it. And then now you're trying to introduce mosquito that has good bacteria. But we're still with the mindset that mosquitoes are bad.
And with what you said, that millions will come, I'm sure that our viewers watching home would be like, wait, what? They're bringing millions of mosquitoes here? So that could, how would you change the mindset, or rather put a positive spin on that? Because we've spoken about it being a good bacteria. But if you could tell them in a way that how this bacteria can help them, maybe in a social economic context, like.
I think something that's really important to point out is the number of mosquitoes that we're actually going to be releasing is really insignificant compared to the number of Aedes aegypti mosquitoes already flying around our homes every single day. So 2 important things to remember there is that, 1, the mosquitoes aren't any different to the mosquitoes already in the environment, other than the fact that they carry Wolbachia, which of course means they don't spread disease. And number 2 is that we're not increasing the mosquito population in the Suva-Nassuri corridor. In fact, when we're done, the population may even be less than it was before. Community members might notice a small increase in mosquito numbers while the releases are being carried out, but after that, everything will return to normal, except Wolbachia will be in the local mosquito population.
Considering the amount of mosquitoes, like you said, they might notice that there's a slight surge in the amount of mosquitoes over there. This doesn't mean that they need to let their guard down. It doesn't mean that, you can let any mosquito bite you. Your main purpose, of course, would be to have them crossbreed with local mosquitoes to reduce the risk of them carrying, or actually transmitting, rather, the disease. But if you see a mosquito, you still want to kill it. You can kill it. It doesn't mean that you just let them grow, right?
Exactly. It's not something we telling the community not to destroy the breeding grounds, not to destroy mosquitoes, or not to do anything about the mosquitoes. The normal preventive measures that will already exist within the communities, with the Ministry of Health and other stakeholders, will continue to do that. And while these Wolbachia mosquitoes are released, as Kate has said, it will start crossbreeding with other wild mosquitoes that we already have here. So slowly, gradually, it will breed and produce more Wolbachia strain mosquitoes. While we continue doing our preventive measures, breeding grounds need to be destroyed. All other preventive measures that we are taking at the moment, we continue to take that, because biting rate will remain. Biting rate will remain. But the thing is that when this Wolbachia spreads into the bigger population, the transmission rate will be decreased.
Now we know that the World Mosquito Program is doing a lot in terms of not just introducing Wolbachia into the Aedes aegypti, but so much more in community awareness. What exactly is the Ministry of Health's work in it?
Okay, In terms of community education, we have seen our all mosquito program, the partners have, especially for the Suva and Sori corridor, we have 8 medical areas.
Okay.
And they have visited all 8 medical areas. They had a very strong community support, very strong, strongly people have come on board to listen and to accept, and then they have given their full support. And I believe the coverage is somewhere around 80% that our people have gone into the community, and they have learned a lot about it, and from the schools to other community leaders, and then house to house even we have gone around. So most of them are welcoming, when they hear that this Wolbachia will gradually reduce the outbreaks and the frequency and severity of the outbreaks, and they have wholeheartedly welcomed this, and then we are ready. And I believe the community will give us the usual support that they have given during the awareness campaign. Yeah.
Kate, you've spoken about the mosquitoes themselves, and we've spoken about the Wolbachia bacteria, but to get into the details of it, when you're doing crossbreeding, there may be viewers out there that may have some sort of scientific knowledge. How does that work? What does that mean with the crossbreeding? Is it just females that'll be carrying it, or just males that'll be carrying it? What is the percentage of, Aedes aegypti mosquitoes that will be brought back into Fiji that will have Wolbachia?
All of them. All the mosquitoes that we release here in Fiji will carry Wolbachia. So with regards to crossbreeding, that just is introducing the same makeup of mosquito that is in Fiji. So the mosquitoes that we release here will be exactly the same as the local Aedes aegypti mosquitoes, except that they carry the Wolbachia.
So it won't be more invasive, it's not going to be causing anything else?
Absolutely not. So Wolbachia is completely safe for people, animals, and the environment. If they bite, it'll still give you a bit of an itch, of course, but it can't make you sick. And your viewers might be interested to know that it's actually only female mosquitoes of any species that bite.
That's saying something.
So mosquitoes actually just eat nectar to survive, like butterflies. But females need protein in our blood to make their eggs. It's part of the reproductive process. We'll be releasing both male and female mosquitoes as part of this work. The male mosquitoes will not bite, but they will help Wolbachia be introduced into the local mosquito population. The female mosquitoes we release will bite. We can't stop that. Gosh, I wish that we could. But when they do bite, they won't make us sick, and that's pretty cool.
Thank you for that, Kate. We'll just go to a quick break right now, and then we'll be back. You're watching For the Record. Good evening and welcome back.
Now, Mr. Chand, with regards to dengue cases in the past, say this year or even last year as well, combined, there have been numerous cases, and that's been a huge burden, not only on the Ministry of Health, but, with socioeconomic fallout as well. You have people who have to miss work. You have people who have to go to school. They miss out on school. Then you have those who have buses and taxis that they need to catch. You need to get your medication. You need to have, proper food and all that. And of course, on the Ministry of Health itself, you have to provide all of those services. With Wolbachia mosquitoes mosquitoes carrying Wolbachia rather, out there, that would also reduce the burden on the Ministry of Health, correct?
Correct. I think the whole of Fiji knows the impact of sudden outbreak that we had encountered recently. And it is a big economical burden, not only on the government, but also on the Ministry of Health and Medical Services in terms of our service provision. And this frequency and severity of outbreaks is really chewing up a lot of resources in terms of our service delivery, in terms of the consumables and other economical burden that we have already mentioned. We have always emphasized that Ministry of Health and Medical Services is there to provide that curative services and also in terms of preventive services. It also brings down to think about the community support that we need in terms of seeing how best our community takes care of their own health to reduce this economical burden and also to reduce the impact of the flow of patients in our outpatients and in our wards. So if we take good social responsibility in terms of our own preventive measures, I think we should be able to reduce the economical burden. As you have mentioned that when people get sick, they miss their work, they miss schools, they miss so many other things that generate economy, and then that is a multiplier impact on general trade and economic development of this country. So our point is that let's keep people healthy, let's keep our environment healthy, and to do that, this is one of the tools that we are introducing Wolbachia to reduce or to create a very conducive environment where people live, and we want them to live and leisure and age with dignity in their areas. But we also expect community to also show their responsibility in their communities that they live, and that one of those is to keep their surroundings clean.
Okay.
We need them to keep their surroundings clean, destroy all mosquito breeding grounds, so that we don't have those grounds or breeding grounds where mosquitoes breed, because they are our common enemies. These mosquitoes that we have around, we have 26 species of mosquitoes. In
26?
26 species. And out of that, only the 2 are the notice species. Aedes aegypti and Aedes albopictus. So the primary vector for dengue, chikungunya and Zika is the Aedes aegypti. So we need to see that these mosquitoes mostly breed around us. They love to stay around us. They love to feed on our blood.
And
that's why
malaria isn't one of them in this country?
No. That is, we are lucky that we don't have malarial mosquitoes here, and then we're trying all our best to keep our borders intact so that we don't get any malarial mosquitoes.
Speaking of borders,
I was just going to say, speaking of borders, wouldn't it be a wonderful thing if you could say, I mean, we can say proudly now, Fiji is malaria free. And if we have Wolbachia mosquitoes out here, that'll be a boost to our economy as well when it comes to tourism, because I know for a fact, I've got family and friends that live overseas, and every time they have to visit, they ask me, is there dengue there? Do I need to get my shots? What do I have to bring? So once we remove that burden, or that stigma rather, that would be a boost. Kate, you're from Australia. If you have friends and family who would be wanting to visit Fiji, they'd be asking you the same thing. Do you have dengue there?
Absolutely. So I'm really lucky. I've recently moved to Fiji. I'm a Fijian local and I'm loving it. And I'm asking all my friends and family to come over and visit me in paradise. And to be able to say, come over and don't worry about dengue or Zika or chikungunya, that would be truly remarkable.
Like, with having said that, can Wolbachia protect against malaria?
So malaria is completely different. So it's actually a parasite. It's not a virus. It's spread by a different type of mosquito. So at the moment, we're solely focused on the Aedes aegypti, which is the primary vector for
dengue.
What
about filariasis? I'm trying to think of a number of
26 mosquitoes.
So I'm thinking, if we can do that, what about the other mosquito-borne diseases that can spread?
Yeah, thank you, Matthew. I think the scientists are doing a lot of research on those things, especially the Anopheles mosquitoes, which spread malaria, and then filariasis. I think the research is ongoing. And sooner or later, we can also have something similar to what Wolbachia is. So, at the moment, what we have found out that we don't have malarial mosquitoes here, and we don't expect to import any, because we have a very strong border control measures at our ports of entry. And we are very proud that we are malaria free, though our neighbors are all infected with malaria. But Fiji is as a hub of the Pacific. About 6 or 7 countries have direct flights to Fiji, which they also have malaria, but we are very safe, because we have a very strong commitment from the government, strong commitment from our border control agencies, very strong commitment from our Ministry of Health and Medical Services that we keep our borders safe from these invasive species that might try to come in from our vessels and aircrafts and all those things. But yes, as you said, we have not yet received or developed something to control malaria in terms of something like a bacteria or a species of something, natural species, or filariasis. But scientists are working on that. There's a lot of research done in all parts of the world. But sooner or later, we may be able to get something of that technique also in Fiji.
Have you ever had dengue, though?
Yeah, I think 2 or 3 times.
2 or 3 times. I've had dengue once, and I was down for a week and a half. It was bad. It was really, really bad. I had to go on drips, and I can say it's not fun. I mean, I was actually in school that time in university, and I missed out on classes, and I had to pay a lot for my taxi fare to and fro from the hospital. Being on drips, it was very uncomfortable. So I can attest to how bad it is. I also have a friend of mine whose family member actually died from dengue. So it's not just the financial burden. There's also so much more.
But like Mr. Dipchan said, when it comes to things like dengue, being responsible is the best thing you can do. So whenever I start feeling the early on symptoms, joint pains, body pains, headache, fluids all the way, that what usually works.
Yeah.
Look, no one ever says dengue is fun to have.
Yeah.
In all the countries we work in around the world, it's a terrible disease, and it can be fatal. I think that something really important to just remind your viewers is that we don't think we can 100% get rid of dengue here in Fiji. We do expect, unfortunately, the odd case to still pop up here and there. What we do think we can do is that we can reduce the risk of large outbreaks.
Thank you for that, Kate. We're definitely going to touch on that. But we're going to quick break right now, and then we'll be back. You're watching For the Record. Good evening and welcome back. Now, we spoke about Wolbachia, the socio-economic benefits especially. Now, let's talk about the introduction in Fiji. The Suvarnasari Corridor and Lami are the places that, the first sites that you'll be working with. How long will that take? And then and a follow-up question to that is, when are you moving on to the rest of Fiji?
Okay, thank you, Madhu. I mean, our first site is the Lami Nasori Corridor.
Yeah.
Definitely that is the site where we have done our surveys, and we thought Central Division would be an important site where we can pilot and test, and then also move into other parts of Fiji. So the first release we are expecting in a month's time or 1.5 months' time, and this will continue till the end of 2018. And after that, we will have a prolonged monitoring and evaluation of the program in terms of seeing how fast these Wolbachia mosquitoes have replicated into a larger population. So that monitoring will continue. However, I would not really go into detail in terms of expansion of this program, but we have already put a plan in place that this program will expand to the parts of Western Division and also in the Northern Division. At the moment, things are not officially announced, and we are working with other donor funding agencies, and we also very closely working with our own government in terms of budget allocations, so that we can see how best we can continue this program into the other parts of Fiji.
How about those in the outer islands?
Okay, outer islands, at the moment we have no plans for the outer island.
Okay.
What we have seen in terms of outer islands, the dengue cases and these Aedes mosquitoes, the population is almost negligible.
Is this also including Ovalau?
Yes, including Ovalau. However, in later stages, we will include these bigger islands like Tuvini, Ovalau, Kondabu, where we have sporadic cases around the year. But in terms of other small islands where we don't have much Aedes aegypti and high level of dengue cases, the risk is quite low at that moment. One reason could be the surroundings have brackish water. These other species of mosquitoes breed in those, the crab holes, the tree trunks, and pendana holes, and all those things. So Aedes actually breed inside our houses. They stay within us. So they don't like brackish or salty surrounding.
Yeah.
So the risk is quite low at the moment in the maritime zone.
Looking at the program itself, how it's being carried out, Matthew and I had the opportunity to go and visit the World Mosquito Program's site, and it was really interesting because I saw those little boxes that you have. Now, of course, getting into it with people saying mosquitoes are going to be released, they'd be thinking you have a jar full of mosquitoes and just open it up and it just goes around everywhere. But that's not what's happening. Could you please tell us what's the process? You know, communities trying to get involved in this. What are do you have certain traps, anything like that?
So in all the communities that we work, it does involve a little bit of community participation.
Okay.
So we have a monitoring network set up across our field trial site here. And that actually involves people hosting a mosquito trap on their property.
So you're asking people to actually breed mosquitoes?
So the traps will actually catch a sample of the mosquitoes that we release, and then we can test them for Wolbachia. And in many of our project sites around the world, yes, we ask the community to grow and release their own mosquitoes, and we would love to do a project
And
like
is there
that
a
here in
specialized
Fiji.
machine for that? Or?
The mosquitoes are so easy to use, so to speak. They do all the hard work.
Yeah.
The only thing you would need to do to grow your own mosquitoes with Wolbachia is to get some mosquito eggs, which would be provided by us, and some food for the larvae, and put it in some water in a container. 2 weeks later, you have yourself your very own mosquitoes with Wolbachia.
So those are the good mosquitoes.
Absolutely.
Well, rather mosquitoes with the good bacteria.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. With that, there may be people thinking, what about the cost involved? Do I have to pay for anything?
Yeah. Thank you. I don't think people will have to pay any money in terms of this program. This program is fully funded by DFAT with the Monash, and it is fully secured in terms of funding. We only need people to cooperate with us. We only need people to come on board and assist us in terms of getting this Wolbachia mosquito released. And we will not be charging anybody anything. We will just need your assistance, your cooperation to welcome us into your homes and accept those traps, keep it in your households, and then after 2 weeks when the mosquitoes breed, and we need to come back and we release it. So that is the only fiscal assistance we require from the community. There will be no dollar value attached to the community engagement. In terms
Some
of
might
community.
say that, why are we going to have to breed mosquitoes? Why can't we just continue with the chemical spraying that's happening? Why can't we just kill all of it? Of course, like you've mentioned, we're the ones carrying the dengue. But you need to have mosquitoes out there that won't spread the dengue. So you need to make sure that communities understand that, of course.
But that goes back to what we had discussed and what they had said. You'd have the mosquitoes that have Wolbachia, which means you don't get affected with dengue, Zika, or chikungunya, which means you don't go to see the doctor. You don't pay for bills. It's kind of what you brought up recently with how much you had to pay and the amount of drips that you had to take. And I think it's a step in the right direction. However, how long will it take to become effective throughout the entire country once you started releasing mosquitoes? So obviously the Suri-Lami corridor, sorry about that, however, goes first, and then afterwards the rest of the country. With Townsville, how long did it take for it to become effective?
Well, with regards to Fiji, this is the first time we've used Wolbachia in Fiji. So in terms of giving you a specific timeline, that's basically impossible. We have to wait and see what the Fijian mosquitoes can do. We expect to be releasing mosquitoes up until the end of 2018, and then we'll continue the monitoring process.
Okay.
In Townsville, we saw that the Wolbachia increases really quickly in the mosquito population. The Wolbachia basically gives itself an advantage within the mosquito population, meaning it spreads really, really quickly, and then once it's there, it's sustainable. And so our first field trial sites in Australia were in 2011, so 7 years ago, and still in those communities in northern Queensland, Wolbachia is at high levels, and there's been no evidence of local dengue transmission in all those years.
Thank you for that, Kate. We'll definitely come back to that. We'll just go to a quick break right now, and then we'll be back. Good evening and welcome back. Now, Kate, you spoke about how successful Townsville was. So you mean to tell me that the people living there have not contracted Zika or chikungunya, including dengue, ever since the project was initiated? So if someone was to be infected, they'd come from outside Townsville? Am I right?
You mean locally transmitted, as in we live in Townsville?
Yeah.
And no one contracts it here.
No one there has
But
it.
someone comes in
Outside.
and if a mosquito that has Wolbachia in Townsville bites the infected person not from Townsville, they won't be able to infect us again, correct?
That's correct. So we have all this anecdotal evidence from across a number of our Australian project sites.
Yeah.
And so where Wolbachia is at high levels, you're correct, there hasn't been any evidence of local transmitted dengue. But we do have information that shows us that the dengue is coming into Australia through the international airports. People have gone to Indonesia or maybe even Fiji and come back to Australia who are, and sick with dengue. It's a human virus. But when an Aedes aegypti in Australia, in these communities, bites them, the mosquito doesn't get sick because it carries the Wolbachia, which means there has been no locally transmitted cases.
Speaking of Wolbachia, Deep, you've already said that it occurs in 60% of living organisms. Why isn't it possible to introduce Wolbachia into human beings instead of mosquitoes so that we don't have to have mosquitoes in the country at all?
Very interesting. I think Wolbachia may not live in human beings.
Okay.
If it was supposed to survive, I think we won't use mosquitoes, but we would directly insert into everybody like in medicine. But unfortunately, we haven't reached that. The scientist in terms of medical science hasn't reached to that extent. But medical science still trying to develop the very natural method of controlling, not disturbing the environment, not disturbing any species or suppress any species, keeping the whole equilibrium, the nature as it is, while protecting our human beings from getting sick. While the medical science is also developing a lot of other medication in terms of treating a lot of diseases, while we're working on that, because it takes time. So let's do something on preventive measures, how we can prevent ourselves from getting sick.
So very quickly now, before we start wrapping things up, how many communities have you visited so far? Have you covered the required communities between Lami and, of course, Nausori?
Yeah, as I said that within this corridor we have 8 medical areas, and we have covered about 80% of that community, and we have a very strong support in that area. We may have missed a few communities around, but as I said, that we have covered more than 80% of these communities with very strong support, and I think we have reached above the target that we needed to reach those communities. Yeah.
So community support is vital. We do not want to release any mosquitoes with Wolbachia if the community is not ready or does not want them. And we're actually setting up a community reference group that will actually help us determine whether or not we have public acceptance for the work, which means does the community want Wolbachia in their community? So far we've had an absolutely overwhelmingly positive response from everyone we've spoken to, and in the next few months we'll be working with our community reference group to determine whether or not we have the green light to start releasing mosquitoes with Wolbachia.
Before we wrap things up, of course, just one last question. With the success of the Filariasis tablets that were administered, mass administration that is, it's been pretty successful. Now, of course, when it first came out, it was, something people didn't want to. Why do I have to take, medication? But it's worked. Same thing with the Wolbachia introduced mosquitoes. Of course, this will be a successful, like Kate mentioned, you just need community support. How long do you think it'll take before everyone's on board with this?
I think we are on the right track in terms of community awareness, in terms of community education. The support, as Kate has said, it's very strong support at the moment. And sooner or later, I think within a month or come close to this year ending, I think we will have 100% support. We have also received a lot of support from other parts of Fiji. And they are just waiting, why not Western, why not Northern? So that means that people are very much aware of what impact Wolbachia can cause in the community in terms of reducing the number of cases, in terms of reducing the number of sickness, in terms of other economical benefits that we will have. As you have said that there are multiplier economic benefit. As soon as we have reduced number of dengue, chikungunya, the risk factor is reduced, I think our tourism industry will boost. We will have other investment boost in this country. So it is a big plus for Fiji in terms of getting this technology introduced in Fiji.
Well, Mr. Chand, Kate, I want to thank you so much for coming this evening to discuss more about Wolbachia. I'm pretty sure the families that are watching now can have a better understanding of what Wolbachia is. However, if you'd like to know more about this program, check out the website www.worldmosquitoprogram.org. We hope you enjoyed the show this evening, and good night.